نبينا ومولانا محمد. We are in Surah Al-Saffat and ayah number 28, 27, 27 inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأقبل بعضهم على بعض يتساءلون قالوا إنكم كنتم تأتوننا عن اليمين قالوا بل لم تكونوا مؤمنين وما كان لنا عليكم من سلطان بل كنتم قوم طاغين. The following is an account of a discussion, a dialogue that occurs between the people of Jahannam. The people in the fire will have this conversation. The Quran is mentioning this as a warning and also to inform people some of the realities of what happens there. So in this ayah number 27, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ, that some of them will turn to each other and they will start questioning each other. يَتَسَاءَلُونَ, there will be some sort of inquisition amongst the people of Jahannam, and they will lay blame on each other. They will say, some of them will say to others, that you used to come and distract us from the truth, from the right side and the right course. That you are the reason why we did not believe. You had campaigns and you led us astray. You did everything so that we would not follow the people of the truth in order for us to follow you. And this is very broad and very general. It could refer to one individual who is stopping another. It could refer to a group who's stopping another. It could refer to a whole nation that is stopping the rest of the nation from following the truth. قَالُوا بَلْ لَمْ تَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ, the other group will respond and say, the fact is, you are the ones who weren't believing. We never did anything to stop you. You listened to us, but we did not force you to listen to us. So this goes back and forth. As you know, everybody blames each other and everybody will disown each other and everybody will say that you're the reason for our miseries and so on. So even in Jahannam, the nature of those who don't believe will remain. They will be in a state of denial that this is not our fault. Just as the devil trying to justify his disobedience by saying that I'm better than him, likewise the people of Jahannam will not want to take responsibility for their sins, and they will blame each other. They will go back and forth, back and forth. وَمَا كَانَ لَنَا عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ, and we had really no authority over you. Sultan means an authority, a power that enforces whatever it is that is trying to enforce. So here, as with the devil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say he has no sultan or authority over you. Likewise, these people who were the leaders in the community will say to their followers, we didn't really have any sultan or power or authority over you. بَلْ كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا طَاغِينَ. The truth is, you were a group of people who were going to transgress and rebel. Anyway, you were a rebellious group. It was in you. So because you listened to us, we brought out the rebellion that was innate in you. So you were doomed for failure, whether you listened to us or you didn't listen to us. فَحَقَّ عَلَيْنَا قَوْلُ رَبِّنَا إِنَّا لَذَائِقُونَ. And they will continue, and they will say that the final decree and the word of our Lord will now be pasted upon us. Okay? It will be forced upon us, and then indeed we are now going to be tasting what? Allah's punishment. So they will realize their fate, and they will say, it's no use blaming us, because we are going to have a fate which is probably just as severe, if not more severe than your fate. And that is where the conversation now will stop. فَأَغْوَيْنَاكُمْ إِنَّا كُنَّا غَاوِينَ. So yes, we may have deluded you, we may have led you astray, we may have misguided you, and indeed we are misguided ourselves. So they will have no recourse to say that this is now the reality. And when reality kicks in and they realize that this is their abode and this is their punishment, they will eventually concede that they are the ones who are misguided, and they remain in delusion about, or they remained in delusion in the world. So now this is, as I said, a conversation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is recording for us, reporting this is what's going to happen. فَإِنَّهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُشْتَرِكُونَ. They will be now partners in the punishment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say that they will share the same type of punishment because they were both misguiding each other. So one doesn't go without the other. So there is shuraka and there's partnership in the punishment to show them that they're both the same. As the next ayah says, إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَفْعَلُ بِالْمُجْرِمِينَ. This is how we will fare, and we will deal with those who are criminals and those who now did not believe in Allah or His signs, or did not act upon the essentials of the deen and so on. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا إِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. Indeed, the fact of the matter is that when these people were told that they should believe in La ilaha illallah and they should adhere to the universal fact that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they turned around, يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ, with great arrogance, and they said, in the world, we don't need all this, we don't need to know about the divine, we don't need religion, we don't need anyone to be our moral compass, we don't need a referee in our lives, and all of those statements that you hear nowadays commonly throughout the world. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they will have to come to terms with this arrogance. وَيَقُولُونَ أَإِنَّا لَتَارِكُوا آلِهَتِنَا لِشَاعِرٍ مَجْنُونَ, referring to the people of Makkah, that then they will say, as an example, the Quran is using the people of Makkah, the mushrikun, as an example for others who may follow them, that are we going to now leave our gods for a poet who is mad? So first, they didn't believe that the Quran is the word of God, this is poetry, number one. Number two, then they also believed that he was mad, he was now possessed, that he didn't have his faculties intact and so on, which obviously is a contradiction in itself. You can't be a poet and be mad at the same time. You need a certain amount of integrity in your mind to be able to compose the poetry and so on. But this is what they used to say to the Prophet ﷺ, and now Allah is relating their fate in Jahannam. بل جاء بالحق وصدق المرسلين. But the reality is that he came with the truth. This person who said, La ilaha illallah, there is no God besides Allah. He came with the truth and he confirmed the message of the messengers. Okay, so a prophet will always confirm the truth, and he will always confirm the prophethood of other messengers. He is not going to belie or deny anyone the truth, so that the truth, wherever it is revealed, has to be acknowledged. And this Nabi, this Rasul, who is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being the last of all Anbiya and prophets, he confirmed not only the truth, but also the people who came with the truth, both. So this is his attitude towards the truth, whereas your attitude is anything but following the truth. إِنَّكُمْ لَذَائِقُ الْعَذَابِ الْأَلِيمِ. Indeed, you are now about to taste a very, very formidable, punishing punishment. Okay? A very painful doom and punishment you are about to taste. ذَائِقَ. The idea of tasting is obviously metaphoric, and it is not literal. وَمَا تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And you will be rewarded or compensated only for that which you did, meaning the punishment fits the crime. You did this over the course of your lives, and since your lives were there in that world of time and space, that will be translated into eternity here, because there's no time here. But the fact that you remained disbelievers and you remained arrogant towards the messenger will now lead you to living with this punishment. إِلَّا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. However, there will be another group of people who are the servants of Allah, and they are the ones who have been made pure. Mukhlasin is different from mukhlisin. Mukhlis is someone who is sincere, and mukhlas is someone who is made sincere. So there's difference in ranking. Mukhlis is that you are sincere and you make an effort to remain sincere. Mukhlas is chosen by Allah, that they are made pure, and the sincerity becomes innate. And so on. So these servants will not be amongst those whom we have previously mentioned. The people previously mentioned are the people of Jahannam, and now we are now going to mention a group of our servants who are made pure. Who are they? أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ رِزْقٌ مَعْلُومٌ. For them, they will have a known rizq. They will have a predetermined provision and rizq that is known. So there's various tafsir to this. One tafsir is that whenever they eat from the fruits of Jannah, they will realize that this fruit is the reward of this act. That is one way to understand the word ma'loom, something that is known. So they will recognize وَيَدْخِلُهُمُ الْجَنَّةَ الَّتِي عَرَّفَهَا لَكُمْ. The Jannah that has been made known to you. كُلَّمَا رُزِقُوا مِنْ ثَمَرِ الرِّزْقَ قَالُوا هَذَا الَّذِي رُزِقْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَأُتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا. As you see in Surah Al-Baqarah, that there will be resembling fruits and reward that they will recognize. They will be similar, but they will be able to recognize the difference in how the reward is appropriated, which is an added blessing. Okay? if you know, obviously, more about the food you're eating, it makes for good conversation. You're happy. I know where this thing is from. I know how this is done. I know how this is cooked. I know where this fruit is. I know how this fruit is cultivated and so on. So the more you know, the more pleasure you gain from the fruit, and the more pleasure you gain from eating. So as an added pleasure and ni'mah to the people of Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it known to them that this particular fruit and food is a result of this particular act and this particular deed. That is what is meant by rizqum ma'loom, a rizq that is predetermined, if you want to say that, or a rizq that is known in the minds of those who eat it. And what will that be? Fawakih. That will be the fruits. Yeah, meaning every fruit they taste will be based on knowledge of that fruit, where that fruit came from in the dunya. So this is how the Quran now is describing the ni'mah of Jannah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the punishment in Jahannam. So you have both now components of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One is the mercy and the other is the punishment and the adab. وَهُمْ مُكْرَمُونَ, and more than that, they will be honored. So one is that people feed you as if you are a homeless beggar, and the other is that people entertain you and host you and honor you, that you're now given a spread, and the host is now doing everything to make sure you are taken care of and so on. That's honorable. So the food that will be served in Jannah and the fruits that will be given in Jannah will be in the ambience of honor, nobility and dignity, so that it makes for a very, very pleasurable moment. Not that you're dishonored and so on. Usually when you have guests, you can only attend to one guest at a time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will attend to all the guests of Jannah at the same time. Right? Nobody will feel that they're being left out, and then they don't have the focus of the host upon them. So that is what is meant by mukramun, that they'll all be honored by the host. Fi jannatin na'im, what is now the setting and the backdrop where they'll be given this food and they'll be allowed to eat these fruits in gardens that are full of delights and full of ni'mah, na'im, full of pleasure. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the setting is going to be extremely, extremely pleasant, and the host will honor those people, and they'll be honored, and they'll be in a state of bliss. Ala sururim mutaqabilin, and more than that, they'll be reclining and they'll be facing each other on comfortable chairs and comfortable beds and comfortable furniture. Surur, the number of translations for the word sarir, and it could be anything that from a reclining couch to a settee to a sofa to a chair or any such thing that is honorable, and they'll be facing each other, meaning that when we eat in Jannah, there will be many occasions when we will eat together, and when we eat together we'll be facing each other, so that we can feed each other. Also is in the description of the people of Jannah, that the people of Jannah will continue with their generosity that they had in the world, and they will literally feed each other even in Jannah. So that tradition continues. It won't be that you're selfish. This is my pie, this is my biryani. No. You'll be facing each other and you'll be feeding each other. That brings about the communal effect of Jannah. Jannah is not a private place where you have your own kind of retirement home. It's a very social place. It's a community place. Ashabul Jannah mean the people of Jannah, the companions of Jannah, where they mix and mingle and they're happy to be with each other and see each other and they're happy to feed each other and entertain each other. So that will be another honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow the people of Jannah to experience all the time. So ala sururim mutaqabilin, that they'll be facing each other so that they know who's who, and so on. So it'll be very social and festive environment and atmosphere. يُطَافَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِكَأْسٍ مِّن مَّعِينٍ. Then on top of that you have the fruits, you have the food, you have the company. On top of that you will have something to drink. And what is now that to drink? That they will be given, what will happen was that this cup or this goblet will be passed around them. يُطَافَ عَلَيْهِمْ. So it will be circulated around them, and it will be from min ma'in. There will be something that is now a river of wine, and everybody will be given a drink in that goblet, in that cup from the river. And this is now the social setting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes for us, for the people of Jannah. It is very graphic and also is very sensual. It's not metaphoric. You mustn't assume that Jannah is metaphoric and it's going to be somewhere in La La Land. No, it's real, it's physical. It's not metaphoric, it's literal. Otherwise there's no point of resurrecting the body. بَيْضَاءَ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. It will be crystalline white, purely white, that when you look at the drink, you will be fascinated, and a certain amount of happiness and joy will be instilled in you just as you look at it. When you look at something and you're happy, then you know that something is beautiful. Okay? That's the ni'mah of the eye. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide us the ni'mah of the eye, the ni'mah of the tongue, the ni'mah of the ear, and the ni'mah of touch, and the ni'mah of smell. All these five senses will be heightened, and they will be given their respective forms of ni'mah. So bayda, so when you look at the water, it will be bright white. It will be so white that you'll be happy that it is that white and pure. Obviously referring to the purity of the drink. It will not be a drink that has been adulterated with filthy pollutants, where you need to stamp on the grapes in order to make the best wine. None of that filthy stuff. Right? It'll be pure, right from the spring of the wine. لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. And extremely delicious for those who drink it. Yeah, so you have this wonderful taste. But at the same time, although it's wine, it will not be intoxicating. Yeah. لَا فِيهَا غَوْلٌ وَلَا هُمْ عَنْهَا يُنْزَفُونَ. So there will be no headache therein. There will be no heavy head that after you drink it you go into some kind of state of, what's it called, withdrawal. What's the other thing? What's it called? Hangover. There you go. There will be no hangover when you drink the wine of Jannah. La fiha ghawlun. So Allah is now mentioning this so that you may compare it with the wine of the dunya. So the wine of the dunya is that wine which first of all intoxicate you, number one, then you have a hangover, then you have withdrawals, and then you have to sit under the cold shower and drink buckets of coffee to make sure you come back to life. This will be life-giving. It will not be life-taking. وَلَا هُمْ عَنْهَا يُنْزَفُونَ. Nor will they be intoxicated. So that you'll have no... Another ayah says, صُدَاعَ. There will be no headache from the drink that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala serves you. So this is now all the in'amat and the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you in Jannah. Jannat al-Na'im. Jannat al-Na'im is presumably the lowest level of Jannah. The lowest level of Jannah is Jannatun Na'im. وَعِنْدَهُمْ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ عِينٌ. And around them there will be maidens, okay, who will now not glance here and there, and they will be wide-eyed. They will have beautiful eyes, but they will not be flirtatious, meaning even in the description of the women in Jannah, there is no flirtation. So a description of those people, women in Jannah, needs to match the description of women in the dunya. So women in the dunya also should not be flirtatious, and men also should not be doing this and that. Everything. So what I'm saying is that this one, مَقْحُورٌ مَقْصُورَاتٌ فِي الْخِيَامِ. The Quran says in Surah Al-Rahman that the hur, they'll be limited to their tents. They will not go outside and flirt with everybody else. In Jannah, they keep their eyes to themselves, which is a beauty in of itself, right? Which is a ni'mah in of itself, so that you restrain yourself and you keep your eyes lowered, and you don't look here and there and everywhere and assume that everyone who walks with two legs is now game for you. You can't assume that kind of lifestyle, because the women in Jannah will not be like that. They'll be pure. They'll have some manners and ethics and morals, and they'll have a high standard. MashaAllah. كَأَنَّهُنَّ بَيْضٌ مَكْنُونَ, as if they were very precious eggs, hidden. Maknoon. Maknoon means hidden. That only you can see them, and only you will treasure them, and only you will be able to benefit from them, as if they are like that. So this is how we now see the Quran given us, first of all, the insight into the conversation that the people of Jahannam will have, blaming each other, disowning each other, and feeling guilty that they followed each other, and so on. Then the Quran describes the Jannat al-Na'im, the Jannah, that is the lowest level of Jannah, that will have all these pleasures, and everything there is very social and is very entertaining and very, very festive. Then the Quran continues with another dialogue. فَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. So some of them will turn to others, and they will start to question and ask questions from each other. قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ إِنِّي كَانَ لِي قَرِينٌ. So one person from them will say, a sayer will say, that indeed I used to have a companion. Qareen, someone who is close. I used to have a companion. Qareen is usually used for someone who is not a good companion. That is the style of the Quran. As we know in other surahs, Surah Zukhruf, وَمَنْ يَعْرِضْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّضْ لَهُ قَرِينًا. That whoever turns away from the dhikr of the Rahman, we will impose upon him a qareen, which is the shaitan, the word next with the shaitan. So there we see that the word qareen is used for someone who is not a good companion. But anyway, this person who is from the people of Jannah will now start a dialogue, and they will start to reminisce, and they will start to now give some information about the people who they knew, as a casual conversation. So this casual conversation is a ni'mah for the people of Jannah, whereas the conversation that the people of Jahannam will have will be more a form of niqmah and further punishment. يَقُولُ أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ. He used to say to me that are you amongst those people who now believe and confirm that there is going to be a day of judgment. يَقُولُ أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ. As if to taunt me, he used to ask me this question sarcastically. أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَإِنَّا لَمَدِينُونَ. That he used to ask me and tell me that is it true that when we die and we become dust and we become bones, that indeed will be questioned and will be judged? So he used to look at me and taunt me and make these remarks about me. But he was a qareen, he was a companion. Maybe he was my neighbor, maybe he was my colleague, maybe he was my classmate, maybe he was somebody who might have been my boss or my employee. قال هل أنتم مطلعون. The other person who is in the conversation will say that, are you now aware of this person? Can you observe this person? مطلعون. فاطلع. So the other person who started the conversation will now look into Jahannam, as Allah will allow sometimes people to look into the other place. So the people of Jannah may be allowed to browse what's happening in Jannah for a few moments, and the people of Jannah will be allowed to browse into the people of Jahannam for a few moments. So فَاطَّلَعَ, this person will now take a look. فَرَآهُ, that he will see him. But where will he see him? فِي سَوَاءِ الْجَحِيمِ, in the middle of the fire. You will see him right in the middle of the fire. قَالَتَ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتَ لَتُرْدِينَ. He will say, Wallahi, by Allah, this is a qasam, Tallah is a qasam, that you very nearly doomed me. In kitta laturdin, you're going to destroy me, meaning the conversations you had with me, taunting me and rebuking me and making fun of me, nearly led me to disbelieve the way you disbelieved. Then what happened? وَلَوْلَا نِعْمَةَ رَبِّي لَكُنْتَ مِنَ الْمُحْضَرِينَ. And had it not been for the grace of my Lord, the ni'mah of my Lord, I would have been amongst those who have been brought forward to the punishment. But it was Allah's ni'mah that stopped me. So the people of Jannah will not ascribe their being in Jannah to their own deeds, to their own actions, and to their own personality and so on. They will ascribe it to the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَيِّتِينَ. Are we not now going to be dying? We will be dying. إِلَّا مَوْتَتَنَا الْأُولَى وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ. And you used to say that we are not going to die except this one death, the first death, and we are not about to be punished in any way, shape or form. So now there's a three-way dialogue here. One is the dialogue between one person of Jannah and the other person, and then the third person is the one who is in Jahannam. So there's a three-way dialogue, as you can see. So many dialogues of the people of Jannah and dialogues of the people of Jahannam, they're also recorded in the Quran, so that the Quran becomes a complete book, a book of reality. Right, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not spare anything in the Quran. مَا فَرَّطْنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. We have not spared anything in the book, in the revelation. Wherever there is reality, Allah has revealed that reality. So this conversation is necessary to punish the people of Jahannam, and is necessary to reward the people of Jannah. That's why the Quran reveals this dialogue, so that people may take heed. إِنْ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ. Indeed, this here is the greatest triumph. Al-Fawz al-Azim, the best triumph, huge, tremendous triumph, that you want to say that I made it, I am successful. So the people of Jannah will then realize that they have been not only rewarded, but they have triumphed over falsehood, and they have triumphed over the Jahannam itself, and they have sought the fadl of Allah and received the fadl of Allah. So if there is now a supreme victory and triumph, it is the triumph of being allowed to enter Jannah. This is the mindset the Quran develops, that we as Muslims living in this world, we do have to participate, no doubt, in whatever is good, but our eventual fate must be this statement, إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ. And then the following ayah is obviously of immense beauty. لِمِثْلِ هَذَا فَلْيَعْمَلِ الْعَامِلُونَ. If anyone's going to work, then they must work for this. لِمِثْلِ هَذَا. It is for something similar to this that people who work should work. That's the translation of the ayah. If you're going to do any work, then do work for this, which is entering Jannah. So all your efforts must be focused towards the akhirah, and focused towards the divine presence, focused towards Jannah, becoming part of the community of Jannah, so that you are now in this triumphant state of existence. Yeah. Then the Quran continues the comparison. أَذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ نُزُلًا أَمْ شَجَرَةُ الزَّقُّومِ. Is this not a much better hospitality than the tree of zaqqum? Than the tree of zaqqum. Yeah. Zaqqum is a tree in Jahannam, and the Quran will describe it in the next few ayahs. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in repudiation of the people of Jahannam, will say sarcastically, as I said, the Quran uses sarcasm on many occasions, that it is not a better hospitality than the hospitality they will receive, those over there. Meaning, yes, definitely it is. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهَا فِتْنَةً لِلظَّالِمِينَ. Indeed, we have made it, meaning the tree of zaqqum, we are going to make it a trial and a tribulation for those who are unjust, for those who are wrongdoers, and for those who are evil. They will be now made to be the recipients of that hospitality which is in Jahannam, and they'll be forced to eat from the tree of the zaqqum. What is the zaqqum? إِنَّهَا شَجَرَةٌ تَخْرُجُ فِي أَصْلِ الْجَحِيمِ. That is a tree that is going to grow and come forth from the very foundations of Jahannam. Yeah. From the very roots of Jahannam. So Jahannam has a pit, and there is now the bed of this pit. From the bed of this pit, this tree grows, and it grows right to the top of Jahannam. So this is now the first thing about zaqqum. طَلْعُهَا كَأَنَّهُ رُؤُوسُ الشَّيَاطِينِ. So its fruits, its buds, طَلْع means the buds. Its buds are as if they are the heads of devils. So when you look into the zaqqum from above, you'll see that whatever the fruits are, or towards the beginning of the fruits, before the fruits blossom, the budding will resemble the heads of devils. So it's an ugly, very, very frightening picture that the Quran is now depicting about this shajaratu zaqqum. فَإِنَّهُمْ لَآكِلُونَ مِنْهَا فَمَالِئُونَ مِنْهُ الْبُطُونَ. So they'll be forced to eat from it, and their stomachs will be filled with this zaqqum. فَمَالِئُونَ مِنْهُ الْبُطُونَ ثُمَّ إِنَّ لَهُمْ عَلَيْهَا لَشَوْبًا مِّنْ حَمِيمٍ. And then afterwards, in order to now water it down, and in order to what do you call it here? Drink something so that the zaqqum enters and is now digested, they will be then forced to drink something from very, very hot water. Scalding fluid, as the translation here says. So now you have these fruits that are immensely bitter, and they are frightening to eat. And then on top of that, you're going to now try and dilute them, or try to swallow them by drinking extremely hot water. Hamim. ثُمَّ إِنَّ مَرْجِعُهُمْ لَإِلَى الْجَحِيمِ. And then afterwards, after they're entertained with this hospitality, their return will be to the Jahim itself, to the fire of hell itself. So now we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala depicting on one side the ni'mah of the people of Jannah, and He's now depicting the punishment for the people of Jahannam. So there's a comparison between the two, and you can see that this is now all in columns, and it is arranged and organized this way and this way, which is the theme of the surah in Al-Saffat, Safa, that the angels are in ranks, and the angels will be regulating the punishment in Jahannam also. إِنَّهُمْ أَلْفَوْا آبَاءَهُمْ ضَالِّينَ. Indeed, now going back to the dunya, what was the crime of these people? That they found their forefathers, and they found them to be misguided. أَلْفَوْا آبَاءَهُمْ. They found their forefathers, ضَالِّينَ, to be misguided, and they knew they were misguided. فَهُمْ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ يُهْرَعُونَ. And then they rushed towards their footsteps, and they went with them, and they didn't question themselves and question their forefathers, and they didn't question the veracity or the validity of their traditions and their customs and their aqidah and their beliefs and their worldview and so on. وَلَقَدْ ضَلَّ قَبْلَهُمْ أَكْثَرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. And indeed many before them were also misguided. So this is unfortunately a human tradition, to be misguided. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا فِيهِمْ مُنذِرِينَ. And indeed, in order to reform these misguided people, we did indeed send to them those who were warners, mundirin. So we sent warners that people should be now made aware of the consequences of their actions in this world, that there is another world and there is life after death, in which you will have to pay for what you did in this world. فَانظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُنذَرِينَ. So now you must observe, O reader of the Quran, فَانظُرْ. Look, observe, think, contemplate, reflect. What is now the consequence of those who were warned? كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُنذَرِينَ. What is the consequence of those who were warned? And you now see, as we have described in the ayat previously, the consequence of those people who are in Jahannam and those who are in Jannah. إِلَّا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. Except for those servants of ours who are now made pure. When they are made pure, then Allah will save them, allow them to enter Jannah, and so on. So you see in this passage of about, almost 50 ayat, right? We have 50 ayat. The Quran now gives us this very vivid picture of what happens in Jannah, an extremely explicit picture of what happens in Jahannam, so that the manifest nature of revelation is in front of the reader. So the Quran is obviously kitab mubin. It is an open, clear, manifest book which brings everything into the open. It opens it up, mubin, something that clarifies, something that opens up. So it is now revealing, and it is clarifying, and it is giving the reader several descriptions. The reader should be, first of all, mesmerized by the Arabic. If you just read the Arabic and you understood it the way it should be, you'll be mesmerized just by the language. Okay? That's number one, you'll be dumbfounded. Number two, the message and the abstract values that these ayat represent, and the intellectual kind of cohesion between the ayat is another point. But thirdly, the most important, the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides through these ayat is immeasurable. That when you want to really warn somebody, this is the way you warn them. And when you want to give glad tidings for someone, this is how you give glad tidings. So the warning is also very, very remarkable, with this remarkable language, and the glad tidings are extremely descriptive and appealing. So this is the way the Quran addresses reality. And since it's part of Surah Al-Saffat, where Surah Al-Saffat is about angels who are organized and arranged in rows, these realities of Jannah and Jahannam will also be organized, and the angels will be organizing the forms of bliss in Jannah, and they'll also be organizing the forms of punishment in Jahannam. And this is how we get to the theme of the surah, inshallah. We will stop here. The next set of ayat speak about prophets. Inshallah, we will return in 2 weeks. There's no class next week. Enjoy your first few weeks of spring, I guess, in the cold. Jazakumullah khair. We'll see you all soon. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Subhanallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka.